All right, here we go with another newish brand. I believe this German brand to have been around for about 2 years now, and it's my first time with one of their watches for review. And I'm going to butcher this. I'm going to try and say the brand and model name in a more German way, and I'm only going to do it once. This is the Heinrich Taucher Loom Infused Forged Carbon V2. Its design is based off their first watch, I believe, shown here on screen, and Taucher, I believe, translates to diver. Damn it, I said it again. There's a lot going on with this watch, maybe even too much, so there is a lot to cover here. There are two colors of this model, blue or brown, both with forged carbon dials and bezel inserts that are infused with Loom. They have knurled bezels and crowns, top hat sapphire crystals, vintage styling, including those applied indices and this bracelet, Loom that goes around the bezel, and this all comes in a 41mm squarish case with an SW200 movement, and they are designed and made in Germany, and there are only 75 of each color, and they're selling for $946 USD. Is it too crazy? Is there too much going on? And most importantly, is it well built? I'll discuss all this and more, so let's get to it. So yeah, this is a brand that I'm really not familiar with. Now, as I'm sure you know, if you're on Instagram and the groups and such, there are just so many brands, and yes, even I cannot keep them all straight in my head. Now, I remember seeing them on a micro brand group on Facebook, but I don't think I was following them on Instagram at that point, and not for any other reason that I just wasn't. I know I saw the watches here or there, and I remember some posts by the owner, Wolfgang, but to be honest, the brand, it just didn't really interest me. It didn't pique my interest, I guess is the best way to say it. Now, I think it was the name initially and that coat of arms lion logo. And hey, look, all things are subjective, and sometimes we love things and sometimes we don't. But let's get into this piece, and I'll put up all the specs on screen. Going into this, I really didn't know what to expect, and while I can tell you up front that this particular version may be a little much for me, I'm impressed with the build and design of this watch. I would say it's on par with Zelos and other micros in terms of finishing and build quality, and yes, this watch is more than what most Zelo watches go for, but this one has a lot of different things going on with it, as well as a Swiss movement, so I think overall the price is justified. Now let's start off with the case. I kept racking my brain trying to think of what this watch reminded me of. I know Heinrich, damn, I said it again, is vintage inspired, but I felt I had seen this case, bezel, and crown before. Now, there are a lot of watches out there with diamond knurled bezels and crowns, but I think I've come to the conclusion that I was thinking of a few different watches, most notably the Seiko Samurai and some model from MTM watches. I probably had one of the OWC divers on my mind as well, but as far as I could tell, this exact case shape and configuration isn't used on any other modern production watch, at least not to my knowledge. Go ahead and correct me down below in the comments if I am wrong. It's all stainless steel, 95% of it is brushed with a polished chamfer on the top edge. It's a square 41mm, a squarish 41mm, so it's going to wear a little large, and you have that pronounced bezel and large knurled crown, so it's not exactly a svelte watch. Now, to the best of my knowledge, this watch has been, I believe, a pass-around watch, possibly the one sent to the photographers, and I say that because I think the crown and bezel might have a little roughness to them, though the bezel may be intentional. Here's what I mean. The bezel is, of course, very easy to grip with that 3.4mm thickness and that knurling, but it's interesting to turn. It's a 120 click bezel and it ratchets around pretty easily, though it's not loose. The interesting part is it has a lot of backplay, but not in the normal way. It doesn't move back or get knocked out of place easily, but I can push it back pretty good, as you can see on video, and I feel the tension, like there's a spring or like a rubber band holding it in place. It has a stopping point, but like I said, it almost feels like rubber band action. The crown, again, it's easy to grip, of course. It's a large crown at 6.8 millimeters, but there is some wobble when pulled out, and it feels a little tight at times. Now, again, I believe this watch was pulled for photography and reviews, as it wasn't 100% pristine when it arrived to me, and it could have been handled a lot or mishandled. Nothing is what I would call terrible, but this is the only example I have to go on as well. I'm hoping and assuming that the regular production brand new model will not have that wobble and will be a little smoother. Now, of course, the big deal with this model is the forged carbon dial and bezel insert. This one is in brown with the black forged carbon inserts, and it kind of has a camo effect about it. And I will admit, this is a very cool look. I like the choice of brown on this particular one, seeing as all of them will look a little different. I find it more appealing than the Zelos Forged Carbon World Timer I reviewed a few months ago. It's a unique look for sure, and like I said, I really like this brownish orange color. The indices I knew I had seen before, and that was on the esoteric watch I reviewed back in 2020. But these were also taken from vintage watch designs as well, so was the esoteric, and I like that unique teardrop style shape to the 12, 3, 6, and 9 indices. They are applied, they have a silver color surround, same as the sword hands, and as you can see, there is a lot of Loom compound applied to them. Now above the dial you have that top hat style domed sapphire crystal, and this is another area that I'm just not sure about. I like these crystals on certain watches, but part of me wishes these had flat or just very slightly domed crystals. It does cause some distortion and it does create a lot of glare. And now is as good time of any to discuss the Loom, as there is a lot of Loom applied to this watch. And I will tell you right up front, the Loom on the hands and indices is amazing, as is the Loom on the bezel numbers. But remember, there is Loom infused into the forged carbon dial and bezel, and that's why you see me hitting it with the UV light, as that kind of dies out pretty quickly. When it has that charge, it really becomes that red color. So it goes from brown to red, which is very cool, I must admit, but it's not going to look like that for long, so it's somewhat gimmicky. Like I said, the Loom on the hands and indices especially is phenomenal, and this is pretty much an all-night Loom monster. Another area where it is a gimmick but is still very cool is the wavy Loom applied to the bezel grip itself. It won't help you see the time at night, but again, I admit it's cool. It's like Loom on the crown or the clasp. It doesn't really serve a purpose, but it's a fun conversation point, I guess. I do happen to love the caseback though. I'm a sucker for a nicely designed solid caseback, and I love that bar with the logo on it, and then that wavy artwork inset with the black enamel paint. I know, it sounds silly, but the caseback really grabs me, and even though most won't see it, I appreciate it on this one. And I also happen to love this bracelet. I didn't think I would, but I do. It's very vintage inspired, kind of reminds me of the Accutron VX200 bracelets, and all those little links are separate metal pieces. Nothing is welded together here, and with those unusually small outside links, nothing kinks up. This bracelet just drapes on the wrist. The end links fit up nice to the case, and the case has drilled lugs, and those small links that use screws means that you get smaller adjustments, helping to get a perfect fit. And after you size it, if it's still not dialed in, yes, this has one of the on-the-fly micro-adjust clasps that all the micro brands are using, and the clasp has that shield logo that matches the dial logo, crown, and caseback. My only critique is I just don't love that enamel logo on the clasp. I just wonder how that paint will hold up over time. And this bracelet is large. With all the links, it should fit an 8-inch or 20.32 centimeter wrist easily, if not more. On my 7.5-inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist, I like how it wears. It does feel and wear very much like that Seiko Samurai would, though it's smaller as the Seiko is 44 millimeters and this Heinrich, damn it, I said it again, has a better bracelet. I don't find it too large for me, but I know many want smaller watches these days, but for my wrist, it's perfect. I don't mince words around here, and for me, this watch may be a little too much, a little too aggressive with all that's going on. The knurling, the forged carbon bezel and dial, the bezel edge loom, etc. I think I would have really loved this watch about 15 years ago, but these days my tastes are a little more, I don't want to, I want to say refined. That's the word I'm looking for. I just like a simpler design is all. Now, that said, that's my opinion only. I know many who like a watch that goes all out, and this one definitely does. I like that it's not your typical black forged carbon dial, that they're using the brown and blue colors for these versions, and I do like the underlying design, and I like a lot of elements to this watch as well, especially that bracelet. Except for the crown issues I experienced, it seems to be very well made. It's got a Swiss movement and a crazy cool dial and bezel, and I would say an overall unique look in the craziness that is the micro brand watch world, where it's hard to stand out. Heinrich, damn it, has definitely done that. But I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think of this Heinrich Taucher. Damn. Loom infused forged carbon piece. If you want to see more about this piece, I will have a written review. And of course, if you are wanting to buy one, head over to the website. Both are linked down below. Give us a like and follow and turn on notifications. It's the easiest way to support this channel. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.